Okay, hello and welcome to our very first class in graphics and animation, which is COM 3060 or 30,000 and whatever it is. Okay, well anyway, this is going to be an interesting experience this semester since we're still doing what we think of as a hybrid course, which is okay with me. We kind of learned this in a crash course last time around. And so here we go again. We're going to try to sort of stick with it for just a little while longer, hopefully. Not my preferred way of doing it. And I will try to be respectful of your time and get through the bare bones of this as much as possible. So moving on, I'm just going to introduce what the subject actually is, 3D graphics. And now, you may have taken this course without fully understanding what you're getting yourself into. It's going to be an interesting ride, and I really think that you're going to enjoy it if you put some work into it. But right now, what I want to do is sell you on the reason why we have this course and the reason why it's so important. In fact, it's probably, in terms of technology, one of the most important courses you can take. First of all, this is an incredibly useful skill. When we get into 3D graphics, what you're going to find out is that we're really talking about kind of like advanced vector graphics, which basically covers things like Adobe Illustrator, any drawing program that you're familiar with using that's 2D based, works the same way in 3D. Also, you can basically put together anything, and I mean literally anything that could possibly even resemble something that would exist in the 3D world, and there you go. Also, the 3D graphics are very flexible. What this is to say that you're working with vectors, you're working with points, lines, and planes, and things of that nature. And what you're creating are what we're going to call objects. And you can export them in any known format, and they can later be applied to almost anything. We have several possibilities. For example, video, you can graphics on television. You can have graphics on multimedia, your cell phone app. You can have graphics in virtual reality, which we will talk about, where you're actually immersed in the experience. You can have graphics in print. And even more interesting, we have this wonderful 3D printer. So you can actually create physical objects. Isn't that something? Okay, and that pretty much covers multiple applications, because when you think of the applications that I just mentioned, those cover a lot of things. And so you can do just about anything with this, and it's the same program, it's the same concept, and so that's what we're going to hope to get across to you. And of course, these are shareable across all technologies. Once something is digital, in which case it always is, any digital information can basically be sent anywhere. And so if you have, let's say, for example, a cell phone app. Let's say that you're making a cell phone app and they want some sort of digital graphic. Boom, you got it. You just send it to them. Whatever format they want, most likely you can send it to them. Even if it's going to be sent as a digital image from a 3D graphic, well, they're even more flexible, because they don't like it, you can change it and re-render it and send it off again. And we're going to talk about the workflow and how that works shortly. Now, the way the class is actually going to work, in terms of class meetings. Now, first of all, once again, we're doing the hybrid approach. Now, what that means is whether we like it or not everybody's going to be attending class. And so everybody's got to be flexible for everybody's sake. I mean, honestly, nobody wants to get sick, but at the same time, every once in a while, it's always a good idea to show up if you can. So most of the lectures are going to be available online. It's something like some of the demos, for example, the 3D printer. There is a demo for that online, but I would also like to invite you to attend actual demonstrations of some of the technology and some of the things that we'll be doing. Some of that can't really be demoed online. Also, here's another important factor, and I'm going to sort of put it out there. Believe me, you want to be able to talk to me. You really do. And so we are going to have some lab sessions. Now, a lab session basically means that you're sitting at a terminal trying to do something, a terminal computer. You're sitting at your computer. I don't care if it's your laptop that you bring in or if it's one of the workstations there in the lab, and you can't figure something out. I've been there. I learned everything by figuring it out. And so at a certain point, it would be really nice if I could ask a question. Sometimes I find out about something and say, gee, you know, I was puzzling over that for 3 hours. And so I can't get those 3 hours back, but you can. So it could be that whatever it is you're puzzling about, I probably run into. So if I'm there and you can ask me, I can help clear that up. That's what the lab sessions are for. I do suggest that you attend them with the understanding that the actual lecture material will be mostly online. In other words, if all I'm doing is talking and showing stuff on the board, I can do exactly the same thing. In fact, I have most likely done every single lecture on YouTube already, which you will have access to. And so I will be directing you to those tutorials. The facilities and software, there we run into a little bit of a problem. The labs, the actual computer labs that we work in, have every one of these programs that we're going to be using available to you. The Adobe series might be transferable, you know, to your home use. And I say might only because it was last semester, but I don't know if that's going to work this time around. So I'm going to have to, I haven't been informed yet. I will figure that out. But in the meantime, I can guarantee you that those programs are available to you in the lab. Hypothetically, you could purchase a short-term license for very little money and do it all at home. But we have the lab available for you. Now, Lightwave is not quite so flexible. That I can only guarantee that exists in the lab. It's an inexpensive program in the scheme of things. You can purchase a copy yourself, whatever it is that you want to do. But you know, the labs are always there. Okay, and if you need my help and we're not doing a lab session, you can contact me. We can do a Zoom chat, or I could even meet you in the lab and talk about these things. If that comes down to that, I don't mind. And so there you go. Okay, class policies. I'll go over these relatively quickly. Some of you have already been in some of my classes, so these shouldn't be too much of a surprise. First of all, everything I'm talking about is on the syllabus. Now, some of you have had my classes before. Remember that I spend the whole first class just going over the syllabus word for word. Well, guess what? I'm not doing that this semester because it shouldn't be necessary. Now, the syllabus is right there. Now, first of all, let's talk about Canvas. You are most likely looking at this through Canvas because Canvas is now the framework in which all courses are going to be handled during the virus situation. So if you are looking at Canvas, you will already know that the home page of the screen has all the links that you should need, one of which goes to the syllabus. Now there's a second version of the syllabus off to your left-hand side. Just go to the home page, click on the syllabus link there. That's the PDF version. It's a little easier to read. The other links that you're going to find there are to the YouTube channel, which basically has a series of playlists all arranged just for you. And if you would prefer, you can look at the links in the syllabus, which should also be active, which go to those same links, kind of in a contextual context. You also have the class resource page, which is essentially more of the same. You know, that's mucommunication.com/306, and there you should find all the necessary links to all the tutorials and everything that you can imagine. Okay, so attendance is going to be based on the assignments, meaning that I'm not counting heads. We don't typically, we may do some Zoom meetings. Those would usually be better for the labs. But if we're doing a Zoom lab, then that only works if you're sitting in front of the same software I'm demonstrating. And so I don't see the point. So the labs will still be in person unless a special necessity comes up. But you will be expected to complete a series of assignments which will verify your attendance. Meaning that if you haven't watched the lectures and whatever, you couldn't possibly have done the assignments. And so that's how we're doing that. Now, plagiarism in the digital world. Let me just talk about that one for a minute because this is also in the syllabus. All this is in the syllabus. It is possible. In fact, it's very easy to plagiarize digital information. And so I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt for the most part, except that, as Ronald Reagan said, trust but verify. If I suspect, or if I look at something you've shown me, and I've never seen it before, I don't know if you made it or not. I'm going to assume that you did, but I may ask you, just skip ahead, I may ask you to submit to me your model files so I can get a better look at them. And I don't actually do that very often, but it does come up. And rather than force you to submit them every single time, if I've seen you work on the project or if I've seen earlier versions of this, it should never come up. But if it's towards the end of the semester and this is something you're turning in at the 11th hour, and I don't know if you've made it or not, or it looks a little bit strange to me, I may just simply ask, can you show me your model files? And that way I can verify that they're made with the software that we're talking about and things like that. Now, image banks and scans. There are companies that have these gigantic scanners. I kid you not, we're going to talk about this, that create full-body scans of people. They're wonderful pieces of art. Now, the problem is, first of all, we don't have one of those. And so if you submit something that's really, really detailed, I may wonder if it's one of those image scans. Now, I'm not saying you can't use those, but that can't be your project. You know, let's be fair. You're expected to actually create objects. That means you create objects. Now, if your object, for example, is a bus station, and you want to have people in it, and you don't necessarily have time to create perfect people, you can probably find some kind of an image scan of a person and have them standing near a bench or something like that. That's not plagiarism. In fact, I've almost never accused somebody of plagiarism. Every once in a while it does come up, though, so I'm just warning you in advance. Okay, tutorials and resources are available. These are wonderful. So you have all the tutorials you want to use. They're all up on the list. And there's more. If you go into YouTube, you can probably find ones I haven't seen before. You can go into the Lightwave site. They got a whole bunch there. And so anything that you want to learn, you can. And it's actually very easy. Now, one of the things that we don't really have in this class is a textbook. I'm just warning you ahead of time, because a textbook would be a step back. We're talking about these incredible digital technologies, and then I'm asking you to read a paper document. No, it's not the same thing. And so we used to have the Lightwave manual. There's some book references for these sorts of things, but really I just find the tutorials and online references from NewTek and the other software manufacturers just a whole lot easier to use. Okay, now here's a big one. Formats necessary for object assignments. And this really goes to one of the major assignments we're going to talk about in a minute. If you submit to me something for print, something that's going to be printed out on paper, it has to be in a PDF format. Do not, I repeat, do not send me that as an image. And whatever you do, don't send it to me as a model file. Now, first of all, we're going to talk about this again, but we might as well kind of get it established. The first thing you create is a model file. That is digital information, basically vector graphics in the 3D universe. That model file is going to be a .mdl, or actually a .org file might be one of them, and LWO, I think that's what they call them. But the actual file format is only going to be readable by Lightwave. Sending that to me is meaningless. It's not a completed object. And so you have to, in order to do something with that, you got to put that in a scene, and then from there you render it. If it's not rendered, it's not a completed assignment at all. So you render the object. If you're rendering it for print, you want to send it as a PDF because PDFs are designed for print. They mimic print. If you're sending an animation for a television, it's got to be an MPEG, an MP4 file. Anything else is really going to be confusing and in some ways really problematic. Just stick with the MP4 file using the 264 format, and we'll talk about that again. If you're sending me something for virtual reality, that's a different format. We'll talk about that. And if you're sending me something for the 3D printer, you actually have to print it out as a 3D printed object and then take a picture of it. And so bear that in mind. So the formats are all expressly identified in the syllabus. Okay, Lightwave is the official program. Now this comes up every once in a while. There are oodles of 3D programs out there. Blender is one of them, and we may actually go to Blender at some point, but right now we're on Lightwave because we bought the licenses. We've got the licenses for all the computers in the lab. It's a great program. It does all kinds of wonderful things. There are others which have a slightly different workflow, but I'm going to contend that if you are a 3D graphics designer, you can use any of those programs and produce the same types of things But in this class, we're using this program. So if you learn this program, you can learn another. And if you already know another program, then either you may not necessarily find this class useful because you may already know the stuff that we're teaching, or you'll want to learn Lightwave because Lightwave maybe has some features that you're not used to in the other programs. And so that's the way it is. So Lightwave is the official program. If you want to use another program, I'm not going to stop you, but it may come up at some point that you may be required to do something that Lightwave does better than that other program. And so if you dig yourself into that hole, you'll have to dig yourself out of it because I can't help you. Okay, work can be resubmitted. You don't like your grade, try again. Please do me the courtesy of not doing this with like the first assignment, which any idiot could do. But in general, if you misunderstood the assignment, you can go ahead and resubmit it and we'll give it another shot as long as the original version was submitted on time. Okay, freedom of expression with responsibility. Do not create pornographic images. Do not create things that could be considered hate speech. Now, I'm not going as far as speech codes or whatever that stuff is. You can create anything that you want, but bear in mind that this is an educational setting from a religious named institution. So just bear that in mind. Just don't do something that's going to get us into trouble, even in this particular situation. Okay, the resource page. I've already mentioned some of those things. Has a current syllabus, has our YouTube channel. It has a Hall of Fame. If you do your work right, we can put it in the Hall of Fame. So basically, future students can look at your work and say, "Wow, isn't that neat?" We also have the suggested tutorials. Those are the ones that I create for the class itself, and others that I find that I link to, and so you can find those of use. Canvas has all of the lecture material in order, the modules as they're called. I will attempt to make that as easy for you as possible, so you can let me know if there's anything that I can do better. Now, the major assignments, this is something, I wish I only had to say this once, but this is one topic I repeat over and over and over again for all eternity. But we're going to try this again anyway. Okay, so the first assignment, and excuse me a minute here. I'm just going to go away for a second. The first assignment, the 4 objects assignments, or the objects assignment, is worth 35% of your grade. Okay, so I'll come back. And so it's important to understand this is a kind of a confusing assignment in that for some reason people can't always remember. We have 5 possible objects that you can produce. 5 possible types of objects. These are applications of 3D graphics. You only have to do 4 of them. Okay, number 1. And it's on the syllabus. Number 1, something that would be printed out on paper. So for example, let's say you want to design a magazine ad that's got a 3D graphic on it. Or let's say you want to design a letterhead or a logo that you put on letterhead. Give me a piece of letterhead with that logo on it. That's how you do the assignment. And so that would apply to all of these possible paper-based assignments. And either send it to me as a PDF or print it out. If you want to print it out, you can. If you send it to me as a PDF, I will try to print it out on photo paper for you, as my gift to you. And so, by all means, give it a shot. Okay, the video. If you're doing for example, a TV graphic, that's an MP4 project. Your television logo that animates like this. Let's say, Fox News logo or the 20th Century Fox or whatever it is. These great logos that move around, and you can have some wonderful fun with that. The third possibility would be multimedia. If you're producing a cell phone app, for example, you can do that. And there are actually ways of doing it. There's an Adobe program that will let you do that. You can make cell phone apps. You can also potentially make any other type of multimedia for a website, like an animated button, a banner for a website. And we'll show you about how you can do that. The fourth possibility would be the 3D printer. You can print something out on a 3D printer. Anything within reason, anything that you can imagine doing. If you want to put your time into it, you can. And so that's what you would be producing there. Now, the fifth possibility is virtual reality. You can make a virtual reality simulation. It's actually not hard to do at all. In fact, it's amazingly easy in some ways. and you can submit that to me. Now, in order to do that, in order to actually view it, you'll want to have some kind of 3D viewing system, like an Oculus or something like that, but there's other ways you can do it as well. So just bear in mind, and so you have to do 4 separate objects that are submitted in that fashion. Now, the second major project is the final animation. The final animation is due towards the end of the semester, where you would take the skills that you've learned thus far and create one impressive animation that everybody can watch and enjoy. You're going to have weekly assignments that emphasize certain skills. As I say, some will be relatively easy, some will take a little bit more work, but every week you'll have to do something. And of course, we have the standard exams, which will all be online now. So that's basically it. And that is the course. That's what you have to do. Now, full descriptions of this are available in the syllabus, and the weekly assignments will be announced. And so basically, or hypothetically, if I don't announce an assignment, then that means there'll be no assignment required for that particular week. But in this particular class, I'm pretty sure that we do. Okay, and so if you have any questions, please contact me and I will be glad to explain this further.